Hi, and welcome back to Craft Along with Jay. And if you're new, welcome. My name is Yara, and I'm so happy you could join me today. These items are what we're going to be crafting with today. It's going to be um, a hairbrush, a pick, and coffee filters. And this is part of the Just Our Imagination Challenge hosted by Rustic and Lace DIY, Kathy Joe DIYs, and the guest host is Simply Bliss Crafts. And don't forget to check out the playlist once you're done with this video. Okay, I got two crafts for you today because they're a little bit on the longer side. I did have a third one, but I did not like it, so that got cut. But I'm excited about these two right here. So first, I'm just kind of taking my items apart, just trying to kind of figure out what to do. I kind of had an idea for one of them, but I needed more than one thing, so I'm taking it apart and then kind of figuring out what to do with it from there. The first thing I do, I'm taking all these little bristles off my brush and the little um, a plastic piece, a rubbery piece that was in between. Then I'm gonna cut down the picks off my little pick, and they came up pretty easily. Just cutting them with my little tool here. That was not a problem. And then once I got all those cut off, I'm looking at my brush like, okay, can I take it apart any further? And it's a Dollar Tree brush. So, yep, I sure could. The handle came off. I'm looking at it, making sure I didn't cut myself because it kind of surprised me a little bit that I could do it just like that. But here we go. And then I'm like, okay, what can I do with it? And I decided, well, I gotta probably gotta try and cut that little black piece off right there. So I'm getting my shears out, and actually that one came off pretty easy too, which surprised me too. Oh, and there it went. I'm like, how did that happen? It flew right off. And now I'm looking at it, feeling it like, okay, what can I use this for? Because not only do we have to use the bristles of the brush, but we also have to use part of the plastic part. So I'm just looking at it, just like, okay, I need some ideas. What can I come up with? And yeah, I kind of had to play around with it for a little bit and touch it and feel it. And yeah, and then it came to me. For project number one, I'm going to start with taking all those little bristles from the brush and put them in a bag as um, as well as the little pick teeth, tooth, whatever you call them. Those, yeah. Put them all into my bag. And then I'm gonna add some, I think this is antique green. I'm gonna put a little bit in there and then some squirts of water just to kind of make it a bit more um, not so thick so it's easier to kind of paint in the bag. So I'm just gonna smush it around. I do this for a while, and once I'm done with that, I'm gonna dump them all out to my little mat right here. And then I'm going to separate them out as much as I can. I'm just using the tip of a a paintbrush to do this. And then I'm going to let it sit and dry. And while that dries, I'm going to take my coffee filter and I'm going to paint that with Christmas green. And I'm not doing the middle, just the edge like that, one coat, but I'm going to use the back side of it. And then I'm going to add this metallic paint from the Dollar Tree. I forgot if it even has a color name. It's kind of sort of glittery, sparkly, and you can kind of see through it as well. So here I'm just kind of playing around with it on the back side of my coffee filter, and I kind of liked it. So I went ahead, I'm going to use that all the way around. And once it dries, you can kind of see some of the green through there. I think it's really pretty. And while that's drying, I'm going to take some Fix-All glue and I'm going to glue that little metal piece back onto my brush just to give it a nicer look on the top right there. Because here you can kind of see the broken piece from that little black thing that was in there. So we're gonna kind of cover that up. We'll put this metal piece back on and it actually makes it look much nicer. I'm gonna spread the glue out with a little brush right here because I didn't want it all too lumpy. So like when I put this thing back on, it's gonna ooze out. So a little goes a long way. And then I'm just gonna press that into place and let that sit and dry. And then, okay, so I have this foam board that we're gonna cut a piece out of um, to fit inside that little cavity part of the brush. So I'm tracing on the outside. It's gonna be a little bit too big, but we'll fix that. And I'm just gonna use my utility knife to cut around. And then once I got it out, I cut a little bit more around till it fit in there. And I just pressed it in there. You don't even need to glue it. You pop it in and it stays. And then I'm gonna use some Mod Podge around the outside of my brush because I am going to paint it and it's kind of smooth, so we know the paint really won't stick. So I'm going to Mod Podge it first before I do that. Then before I get to that point, I'm going to take some of my burlap fabric right here and I'm going to trace to fit on the inside of my brush where we put the foam board that we cut into to that size. So here I'm just going to trace it out and then cut it and make sure it fits. And then I'm gonna, okay, so before I put it back in, I decided let me go ahead and get painted. So I'm using Truffle by Waverly and I'm gonna paint the rim around the brush and then the back side and the little tip. And then once that's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and paint this little wood round with some antique green. And while that's drying, there's so many steps to this thing. I don't know what I was thinking. But once I got going, it was like, oh yeah, let's do this, let's do that too. So here I'm gonna use some tacky glue, put on my little foam board, and then attach my burlap that we just cut out. And I'm just going to press that into place and just smooth it out. And then there's a little bit that stuck out on the edge, and I just use my little skewer stick right here, and I'm just going to poke it in up under that rim, and you can't even tell. But then I decided to use some jute twine to go around the edge, and I'm going to do this all the way around. Just a dab of glue, and then put the twine down in it just to outline it. And then once I've done that, I'm going to take, this is from the pig that is now green. And then I'm taking the little bristles. Well, no, not yet. I'm going to figure out which one of the pigs I want to use. I have, they're kind of different shapes and sizes right here. So I'm just trying to figure out which one is best for what I want to make and if there's enough space for it. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm playing around with. And here I'm just going to try to add my little bristles. Make sure I have enough space on either side of it. You can probably already tell what we're making right here. And then I want to make sure my star fits on top as well. So it does. So I'm going to go ahead and start gluing it all into place. So as you can tell, my little brush right here, or the plastic part of the brush, is going to be sort of like a picture frame. And then I'm going to put my little picture in there, which is what we're working on now. It's a little bit of a 3D picture, a little bit. Put that into a frame right here. As you can see, it's going to make into like a very primitive, rustic looking Christmas tree with the little bristles. And I'm just using hot glue to add those onto it here. And then I'm still making sure my stuff fits. And I'm just going to give it a coat or two of this metallic paint right here. I didn't want it bright yellow. I want to stick with the primitive rustic kind of look. So I did it like sparkly, but not much. And I used that little shimmery thing from the Dollar Tree. And then I got my little velvet bow that I made. It's just a shoelace bow. And before I glue it down, I'm just kind of getting my other embellishment in place. And what I forgot to film was that I used some snow text from Hobby Lobby, and I added some snow to the bottom of my little picture frame with a tree at the bottom of the tree. I just added some snow text in there. And now I'm just playing around with my greenery to go above my picture frame. So that's a little pop of color with that red, but it's the velvet um, ribbon. So I felt like that kind of went well with the look I was going for. And here I just cut my little greenery thing in in half and then just gluing them down separately because I want it to lay a certain way. Just adding some hot glue. And then I'm going to look for the placement of my bow. And once I have that, just a dab of hot glue and add that. Then I had this pine cone, which it's small, but it was too big. So I ended up cutting it down, probably about halfway, I think. And I'm going between my scissors and my little tool right here to kind of cut that off. And then I want to place it in there on my bow and cover part of the tip of the brush, kind of cover it up so it really just looks like a frame and nothing else to it. I'm just using a little bit of hot glue. And then I'm going to glue in my star, which I probably should have done first, but I didn't. So now I'm going to figure out how to get it up under the little pine needles here. So I have to go in with my skewer stick and help lift it up so I can kind of place down my star and work on the placement of that. And then once I'm happy with that, then I'm just going to lift it up carefully and add some hot glue and then press it back down. And then I'm making sure all the little pine needles on my greenery right here lifted up. Then, while that's sitting there drying, I'm going to add some hot glue to the back of the wood round. And I'm going to place that in the middle of the coffee filter. So, you see how that kind of sticks out. It kind of gives it a little bit of an edge to it. And then I'm going to glue down my picture frame in the middle. Just adding some hot glue and press it down. And then I decided I wanted a little bit of snow on the greenery and on my bow and my pine cone. And a little bit had kind of gotten onto the wood round, which I was trying to get off, but I smooched it out instead. So, but then I kind of liked that look, so I kind of went with it. It kind of looked like snow distressing, if you could call it that. But I liked it, so I was like, oh, hey, well, let's add some more and give it a different kind of look. And I actually like it. So I'm just playing around with it right here. And then I added a little velvet ribbon hanger, and that's what it looks like. Let me know what you think. All right, for project number 2, so I'm going to use 6 of the picks from the pick, and I'm going to wrap them with this baker's twine. I'm going to show you how I did it with this, but I do end up taking it all apart, and instead of the baker's twine, I'm just using jute twine because I like that look better for what I was making. But I didn't film that. I just filmed with this one, so that's why I'm going to show you with the baker's twine how I did this. So I'm going to wrap 6 of those little picks with the twine. And I just add a little bit of hot glue to get it started. And then you can just kind of wrap it and not worry about gluing till you get to the other end of it. So here I'm just kind of wrapping it around once I got started. And then when I got to the end, a little bit of glue and then cover up the tip of it. And I'm doing 6 of those. So here I'm going to start putting them into triangles. I'm going to make 2 triangles. And I'm just going to use some hot glue to glue them together. And you'll see in the final reveal that I changed up the twine on it. So it's just the regular jute twine because it looked better. But here, I'm just gluing them all together. I'm just going to show you this one and you'll kind of know how the other one is going to look. And then once I got that, I'm going to lay one triangle over the other, like upside down, so it creates a star. And I'm just using some hot glue to hold them in place. And then I take some pick of the a piece of the greenery right here, and I'm going to add a cone to each side, like so. And then we're going to spruce up this little greenery right here. And then I'm figuring out the placement of my star. And I'm adding a little bit of these white berries from this little garland thing. And then I'm going to use a piece of that garland without the berries on it to tie around the star and around the greenery. Yeah, I had really gotten this far before I decided like I didn't want this baker's twine and I took it all apart again. So sometimes as you go along, you change your mind, you go back and redo it till you're happy, but that's just part of it. Makes it fun. So I'm just making a little shoelace bow with my, I think it's an awareness bow actually, with the velvet ribbon. And then I put that to the side. And then we are going to take this picture frame from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to paint the frame of it with this antique green. And I'm doing two coats. It's not completely fully covered, but I kind of like this distressed look it gave me. So I left it at that and I didn't give it a third coat. But if you want like solid green, you can go ahead and give it another coat. But this is how I liked it, so that's what I went with. Then I just measured out the inside part of the frame and cut that out on the um, burlap ribbon, not ribbon, burlap fabric. And I'm going to use some tacky glue on this backing right here and add my burlap. And I'm just going to press it in, smooth it out so it goes all the way to the edges so it's on there tight. Going to add a little bit more to the top. And I'll spread that out with my brush so that way it's not lumpy underneath the burlap, and also that every piece of the burlap is glued down like so, and you can just press it out towards the edges. The glue will move with it. And then I'm gonna make a circle on the inside of this masking tape roll, and then I'm gonna add some tacky glue, and I'm gonna start adding some hairbrush brittles bristles um, that we had painted green in the beginning, and I'm gonna do two rows next to each other and then end up doing a third row in the middle. And I'm using tacky all the way around, and you're gonna let it sit for a little while and let it harden because it still moves around right now, but it's easier to work with like this. And hot glue would just be a mess and all that. So once that's sitting there drying, I'm gonna put down that um, garland that we made in the beginning. You can see I redid the star. It's all burlap now. And I'm going to glue that around the arch of the picture frame. And then I'm going to go in here and cut a strip of the coffee filter. You can see I already made a little bow at the bottom of the wreath, but I think this is a 3-loop, but I ended up just doing a regular shoelace bow, just with one loop on either side, because I wanted it on top and it was too much next to the star. So here's just a simple bow, and I'm using this coffee filter strip um, as part of the tail, and it actually looks really nice. I like it a lot. And here I'm just figuring out how I want it. I end up trimming them a little bit so they're not as long, and I wanted them further out towards the sides. So that's kind of what I'm working with here. And then once I'm happy with that, I take some of the berries and I'm trying to figure out, do I want to add some berries to the wreath? And I do. I like the look, and that pop of red kind of did it for me. So we're going to glue our bows down and then we'll add the berries after that. Not too many, just enough. But I really like how this one turned out. And now that I'm looking at it, which I didn't do, what I probably should have done, use some rub and buff around the edges of the frame. I think that would look really nice. So I may go back and do that actually. I do like it. And there it goes. What do you think about this one? Let me know. And let's take a look at both of them. This was so much fun to do, and I can't wait to see what everyone else did. Remember to go check out that playlist. This is going to be so much fun to watch. And I'm so happy you made it all the way to the end of the video with me if you're still here. I appreciate that so much. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and hype my video. I would really appreciate it. Until next time.